Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special, and boy, do mean special, episode of the Burke Brigade. Today is Tuesday, September 19th. I am Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
And we are the Burke Brigade, brought to you by the Liberty Daily,
your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Visit thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com. Share it with all your friends and conservative badasses and anybody that you know that wants to return the United States to its founding principles that made America quickly the most prosperous and freest country on this earth and in history. Okay. All right, my dear, are you ready to hit the ground running?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do this.
Here we go.
Thing.
Here we go. Mm-hmm. So President Trump gave a speech today, which I thought had to rank up there with, I can't remember a better speech. Maybe there was
Really?
one. No, I think it was his best speech. And it's not just because it set the media's hair on fire, but that, I have to admit, is an added benefit. I mean, sometimes he sets the media's hair on fire, which I always like, almost always, but, you know, it's also something I don't think necessarily is the best thing he should have said. But in this instance, he was absolutely great. Now, you and I both know, my dear, we have had an America-hating president for the last 8 years.
Anti-colonialist.
Yes, that basically gave French kisses to every communist dictator. And from a principle standpoint, to communism and socialism.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You know, whether it was the Castro brothers in Cuba, you know, or whether it was Maduro in Venezuela, or before him, Hugo Chavez. Whoever the communist butcher is, Obama blew them kisses for 8 years. And why is it? Because Obama's a communist.
His brethren.
Yeah, kissing cousins. They share the same ideology. So let me ask you a question. Did you ever hear in 8 years Obama criticize communism?
Never. Ever.
Never.
Ever. He criticized places like Israel.
He criticized capitalism.
Right.
He
criticized
America.
He criticized America overseas.
Criticized the First Amendment. Oh, after Benghazi. Oh, it was caused by a YouTube video. That's because we got so much free speech here. That caused it. Okay. But President Trump, to his credit, and as you know here on the Burke Brigade, we just want to tell people, in case you're tuning in for the first time, we call them as we see them. We call balls and strikes here. We're not Trump sycophants, but we're also not never Trump. We call balls and strikes here. And this was a high, hard one right down the middle. It was
boom.
Beautiful. Yeah, boom, big time boom. So President Trump at the UN, he strongly condemns communism and socialism, and he said
at the UN,
right in front of the globalist commies, he said socialism and communism, wherever it's tried, basically, always results in, quote, anguish, devastation, and failure. Let's play this short clip.
Wherever true socialism or communism has been adopted, it has delivered anguish and devastation and failure. Those who preach the tenets of these discredited ideologies only contribute to the continued suffering of the people who live under these cruel systems.
Now, I want to interrupt here for just a minute. He's on to something there when he said wherever they have been fully implemented. Mm-hmm. Because what does the left always say? They think, communism has never actually been tried.
What?
Yeah, that's what they try. Communism,
you know why they say that?
It works.
You know why they say that?
Yeah.
Because the left thinks you're stupid.
Right. It's been tried a lot, and it's actually responsible for over 100 million deaths. Because you can't get human beings to be robots without beating the crap out of them,
right,
and killing millions of them.
Right, and it's no wonder that the left would say it's never actually been tried since, as we talked about the other day, there was a quiz that we used to have who said this, the Communist Party or the Democrat Party, and seriously, you couldn't tell the difference.
I need to do a modern-day version of that, yeah.
Which is why Communist Party USA endorses Democrat candidates.
Yes.
And
At
policies.
cp.org. You can go there and see that the Democrat Party talking points. Yeah. CPUSA, thank you. Sorry about that. CPUSA.org is the Communist Party USA. You can see that they basically have merged with the Democrat Party without making an official announcement. Okay, let's continue to hear President Trump here bash the commies. But I thought that was a key point, and you're probably not going to hear that little nuance anywhere else but here on the
Burke Brigade.
The Burke Brigade. Because they're always saying it's never implemented. And he says, no, it's been fully implemented, and it sucks.
America stands with every person living under a brutal regime. Our respect for sovereignty is also a call for action.
Oh, you can't say sovereignty. Oh, so he's in all these one world government globalists, right? All these one world communists, and he's preaching U.S. sovereignty, and then he'll say, by the way, your countries are sovereign too, and it should be that way. And we here in America, we're going to put our country's interests first. And you know what? You go ahead and put your country's interests first too, and you should do that. We're not one world government. And oh my gosh, the reaction on the faces of some of those people at the UN was just priceless.
Right. And out of curiosity, I'm just on CNN's website.
Oh,
and
we're going to get into that.
They actually do have something about it, but it's buried pretty much.
About what?
Trump lays out America First policies at UN, as if America First is a bad thing for Americans.
Well, he set their hair on fire. We're going to get to that too in just a minute.
All people deserve a government that cares for their safety, their interests, and their well-being, including their prosperity.
So that was pretty spot on. Not pretty spot on. That was 100% spot on. And that was my favorite part of the speech. Now, the other thing he did, he went on to specifically call out Venezuela, which was just great, and showed what a communist hellhole that is. But he also specifically bashed the communist madman in North Korea. The only fattest person in the country.
With an effed up haircut.
Who Trump has nicknamed Rocket Man. Rocket Man.
Rocket Man.
Oh my gosh. He should have played that, right?
He should have.
Brought in old Elton John to sing it. That would have been wonderful. So I don't know if that's the best nickname in the world. I think he could have probably done a little bit better. Don't you think? I mean, you could have called him...
Like fat-ass madman?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so... I think you have to incorporate the weight problem.
Right.
Or something with the bowl cut.
I
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's not bad, Rocket Man. It's not bad.
Mocking him.
Yeah. So, here President Trump says, and this is pretty short too, Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. Let's play this.
To the regime's deadly abuse when an innocent American college student, Otto Warmbier, was returned to America only to die a few days later. We saw it in the assassination of the dictator's brother using banned nerve agents in an international airport. We know it kidnapped a sweet 13-year-old Japanese girl from a beach in her own country to enslave her as a language tutor for North Korea's spies. If this is not twisted enough...
Did you see the look on the faces of those commies? They look like they swallowed a lemon.
Wait, he left one out. Kim Jong Rocket Man Un feeding his uncle to violent, angry, hungry dogs.
Oh my Lord!
Remember that?
I do. Yeah, well, I'm sure he could have gone on and on about that.
Now, North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles threatens the entire world with unthinkable loss of human life.
Okay, now what he's going to do here, the part that really, triggers the Democrat media complex is when he says something along the lines of, if he threatens us, or if he, launches one of these crazy rockets and he hits one of our, us or one of our allies, basically, in my language, not his, we're going to turn them into a parking lot.
And that should be the response of an American president.
Right. And it's... Trump isn't, maybe quite as eloquent, of course, as Ronald Reagan, but I'm old enough to remember that, Reagan, and Trump is not Ronald Reagan, don't accuse me of that, but I'm old enough to remember that Ronald Reagan used rhetoric not so unsimilar to that against the communist USSR, the old Soviet Union, and oh my gosh, we heard the same thing. He's going to get us into a nuclear war. This old cowboy is going to start a nuclear war. And you don't want to tick off the Russians and all this. Okay.
It is an outrage that some nations would not only trade with such a regime, but would arm, supply, and financially support a country that imperils the world with nuclear conflict. No nation on earth has an interest in seeing this band of criminals arm itself with nuclear weapons and missiles. The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
Amen, brother. Look, that reminds me of this song. That reminds me of this song. We heard it on Constitution Day. You'll want to sing it with me. It's just one little verse.
What is it?
Oh, justice will be served, and the battle will rage.
Oh, yeah.
This big dog will fight when you rattle his cage, and you'll be sorry that you mess with the U.S. of A. 'Cause we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way.
Yeah, that was great.
Amen. That's right. That's how America... America, we don't kowtow to anybody.
We actually do, but we didn't used to.
We shouldn't. We shouldn't. I'm saying we don't because we shouldn't, because we are freaking America, for goodness sake.
What about when Obama bowed to dictators? Remember when he bowed to the Saudi king?
Just a freaking embarrassment.
Yeah, absolute embarrassment. So this is not an American apology tour like we endured with Obama. This is kick-ass. This is good Trump.
Put a boot in your ass, because that is the American way that we've lost over the last 8 years of appeaser, anti-colonialist, anti-America Obama.
God, you're racist. Okay, listen.
Is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able. But hopefully, this will not be necessary. That's what the United Nations is all about. That's what the United Nations is for. Let's see how they do. No witness to...
So he's using some of his art of the deal things there to try to push the UN in his reaction in the direction where they should be going. I'm not hopeful that's going to happen. Like all of these issues, it's going to require the United States leading the way to deal with the major problems. Unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. Wouldn't you agree, my dear?
I would agree, sweetie.
Okay.
Once again, you are right.
I know it's regular.
Tiring?
It's hard being always right. It's hard because the expectations from people are so high.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it's like
they do such a good job living up.
It's like a professional baseball player with 1,000 batting average. People they won't allow one strikeout.
Swing, batter, swing,
yeah.
batter,
and
swing.
You always hit the home runs, and pretty soon it gets to be a heavy load.
My husband loves when I throw song into our podcast. He never knows what I'm going to do. I'm hearing from the people, though, that they want more of it.
Yep. Okay. So here is, and this is from the 5 Today, on Fox. They put together this little compilation of some of the media reactions.
Hey, look, it's Bill Clinton's former yes man.
Oh, yeah, George Stephanopoulos, or George Stuffin' Envelopes, or whatever his name is. Democrat operative, masquerading as a journalist.
Didn't his wife say that they were going to leave the country if Trump won? How is he still on ABC?
I didn't hear that. Is that
right? Yes, she did.
Oh, well, maybe she did, and he's here or whatever. But anyway, George here is talking with their, I believe I could be wrong, on ABC News. I think he's their chief White House correspondent, Terry Moran, or who I like to call Terry Moron. And he's going to compare President Trump with Vladimir Putin and say that the speech he gave at the UN was basically the equivalent of a war crime. But hashtag journalist. He's a journalist. Just remember this. He's not a political hack. Just remember this. He is a straight journalist. He's just a reporter.
Democrat media complex.
Yeah. Now listen to this conversation.
If you read the president's words, he said the conditions for totally destroying North Korea would be
that's step on all of us.
Forced to defend ourselves and our allies. You could read that possibly to even open up a justification for preventive war against North Korea.
That is.
Here's Terry Moron.
A potential justification, but the words totally destroying a nation of 25 million people, that borders on the threat of committing a war crime.
Why does he have to be...
Okay, here's Joy Behar. I left out the part, believe me, there's a longer clip of that where he compares Trump to Putin. Here's Angry Witch Joy Behar.
So provocative all the time. We're talking about annihilating millions of people. Yeah. This is not baby stuff. This is...
I can't do any more of this, I don't think.
But is this Joy's attempt at comedy again?
I don't know. I didn't even know she was a comedian.
I didn't either. I never heard of her until The View. She's probably some failed comedian that they elevated to give her a TV show.
Yeah, they find out, she's a commie pinko, so she'll fit right in with the other leftist hags. By the way, did you hear Jedediah... Bia? Is that it?
I think so.
Bila, isn't it?
That was Bia. Whatever.
I'm not being rude. I'm just having a brain fart.
Jedediah.
She's great. But anyway, she's leaving after a year. After just 1 season. I can't wait to see.
They'll probably replace her with Chelsea Handler.
Not a year, 1 season. So, yeah, she probably can't stand being on there with the hags.
There's a guy who was leading The Apprentice and now is talking about nuclear war. I can't take it.
Oh, but you know what the great thing is? He still beat Hillary. He's just an apprentice guy, right? But he still beat your gal Hillary, Joy. I just wanted to remind you of that unpleasant fact. Okay. So, big story number 1. Trump's UN speech. And it just set the media off. And it did, again, he's not Ronald Reagan. I'm not saying he's anywhere near Ronald Reagan on many, many levels as far as being able to communicate, and definitely not
principled, even
as close conservatively principled. I mean, not even in the same ballpark. But just the fact that he's talking tough to America's enemies, and the compliant media, who basically agrees with all these, communist ideologies anyway, they don't want to see them crushed because, quite frankly, they'd like to see us in the same boat as these communist hellholes. Okay, number 2 big story, and this is a big one. This is Obamagate, which is now, and the media won't report it this way, the Democrat Party won't treat it this way. The weaklings, the squishes, the rhinos in Republican Party leadership will not treat it this way. But Obamagate, which is the spying on political opponents, has reached Watergate proportions.
Wait a second. Wait, hold up. Whoa,
Nelly.
I thought it was beyond the pale to think that Barack Obama would actually spy on the Trump campaign. How dare you, sir, say that? Isn't that what we heard over and over again from the left stream media? That's just, how dare you, you make that claim? I
know, you racist. You're such a racist. Okay, so CNN headline, March 5th, 2017. Here's their headline, and I remember this so well. Trump's baseless wiretap claim. Baseless. So they're editorializing in their headline that it's baseless. They had no damn idea if it was baseless or not.
And they were saying that it was baseless.
As if that was a fact.
That it was beyond the pale that Barack Obama would do such a thing, despite the fact that Obama spied on James Rosen. Fox News' James Rosen. Obama spied on James Rosen's parents. Obama spied on AP reporters. Obama even spied on members of Congress. But no!
Oh, yeah, there's no possible way he'd cross that line.
Spy on Trump? That's ludicrous.
Fake news.
Again, the left thinks you're stupid.
But it got even worse, my dear. On September 5th, this headline.
September 5th, just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Donald Trump just flat out lied about Trump Tower wiretapping.
You might want to take some screenshots of those, honey. I have a feeling they're going to scrub.
Yeah, they might go by the wayside. Let me read that again. September 5th, as you said, days ago. Donald Trump just flat out lied about Trump Tower wiretapping. Now, here's a new one. 13 days later, this was last night, exclusive. This is the same network. This is CNN.
Really?
U.S. government wiretapped former Trump campaign chairman. You notice how they've shifted it? It's not Obama who was the president, who is a Democrat, who was in charge of the executive branch of the government, who hires and fires at the FBI, the NSA, who appointed James Clapper, who lied before Congress. Oh, and I got to find that here. Can you talk about something while I find that? But, because I just want to remind people what James Clapper said. But why is this important? The reason why it's important is CNN, that last headline, they admitted that the Obama regime, of course they, sterilized it, the U.S. government. So you can't pin anybody down.
Protectionist mode to protect the dear old
all of a sudden it's
Obama.
just a faceless U.S. government. Right. That way you can't hold anybody accountable.
Right.
That's why they do that.
Or some idiots will think that Trump spied on himself.
Yeah, well, Obama didn't know. There's a really good story. He's got these headlines. A good editorial at Investors Business Daily today. Investors Business Daily at investors.com. And they've got some great conservative editorials there, by the way. And it's entitled, White House Spied on Trump and Lied About It, says CNN. Is this worse than Richard Nixon?
Yes.
Well, it's certainly as bad as Richard Nixon, except, well, I'm gonna now that I think about this for, a whopping 5 seconds, I'm gonna agree it's worse, and here's why it's worse. In Watergate, you had a political party spying on another political party. That's one thing. And then the question was, did Nixon know about it? Okay, that was the question. But under Obamagate, you have Obama using the power of the federal government, the executive branch of the federal government, not a political party. We're not playing politics here, to attack his political opponents. Now, how do we know it's his political opponents? Because it's Trump's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, who may not be as pure as a driven snow. He always looked to me like he was a little bit
shifty,
slimy, and he may very well be a slime ball. I have no idea. I know he played dirty tricks at the RNC convention.
Yep.
Which I did not appreciate. So if he committed a crime, lock him up. That's one thing. But as Judge Andrew Napolitano asked today, did the Obama regime spy on Manafort, the campaign chairman, by the way, who had his offices in Trump Tower. Remember President Trump?
Oh, I saw a headline just not long ago that the Obama regime was cleared of anything about wiretapping Trump Tower. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do.
I swear I saw that a week or two ago.
Well, maybe it's the one that we just read on September 5th from CNN. Donald Trump just flat out lied about Trump Tower wiretapping. And then exactly 13 days later, they're admitting that the Obama regime...
Fake news, CNN. Fake news.
Wiretapped Trump Tower. So Trump got a lot of hell. Remember when he tweeted that? Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, the Jake Tappers, the Brian Stelters,
Hair on fire.
Yeah, all the fake newsers came out, and they were so butthurt that anybody questioned the integrity of Obama.
Right, and speaking of CNN, sorry, I'm scrolling through Facebook because I have friends that post some, I get some good tips.
Don't act like you have friends.
Listen to this. Good grief. This is posted by a friend 11 minutes ago. CNN desperate. Doing a special on Trump and Twitter Friday night. Maybe they're trying to take away from the evidence that the Obama regime spied on the Trump campaign. So they're focusing on Trump and Twitter.
Let's just predict that the one tweet they won't talk about is Trump saying that his campaign was spied on by Obama. And they went absolutely berserk over
I
it.
think you're a prophet.
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far, my dear, but I do hear where you're coming from. Okay, so what I want to do here, I'm finding it as we speak. I want to hope there's no ad here. If there is, okay, cool. So this is Judge Andrew Napolitano today. Listen to this.
Real serious distinction. If the government uses FISA, that's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, to get a warrant to listen to you, the threshold for that is very low. Brian Kilmeade, we have reason to believe, is talking to somebody who works for a foreign government. We want to listen to their conversation. We're not interested in Kilmeade. We're interested in the foreign person he's speaking to. The courts grant 99.9% of those. Right. But if they were interested in evidence about Paul Manafort to find out what he knows about Donald Trump, or to find out what he was telling Donald Trump during the campaign, or to use this evidence against him in a criminal prosecution, that kind of a warrant won't do. Then they have to go to a federal judge and present evidence of crimes by him or the people he's speaking to in order to get that warrant. So, were they listening to Paul Manafort during the campaign in order to find out what Donald Trump was going to do next in the campaign and help Hillary? Were they listening to Paul Manafort because they thought he had committed a crime? Were they listening to Paul Manafort because they were looking for something with which to tarnish the future president?
How about this? Were they listening to Paul Manafort in Trump Tower? And does it seem more and more like the president knows something when he came out and had that tweet from Mar-a-Lago all those months ago?
Yes.
So this is the kicker.
I think the answer to all those questions is yes. They were surveilling Paul Manafort while he was in Trump Tower, which is absolutely consistent with allegations that Donald Trump and others have made about this. There's a below the radar screen thing here that I got to tell you about. FBI Director Comey, while still the FBI Director, and Admiral Mike Rogers, the head of the NSA, both told the Senate Intelligence Committee under oath that they knew of no surveillance of Donald Trump.
So who's running this operation?
How could the FBI director not know about this if his own people had brought it about as part of a criminal investigation? Real serious.
So somebody has got some major, as the famous philosopher Desi Arnaz used to say years ago. I know I'm aging myself. Somebody's got some splaining to do. Because how many people have stayed, in fact, have said that, oh no, the Trump campaign, they weren't spied on. They weren't spied on at all. In fact, here is the slippery, bald-headed snake, James Clapper, talking to Chuck Todd the Fraud of Meet the Press in March, I believe it was, of this year. And Chuck Todd very clearly and directly asked Clapper, who, by the way, as we know, already lied under oath to Congress once. Yep. I think it was 2013, about the massive NSA spy ring Obama had on the American citizens. You know, we said unmittingly, or whatever the word was he said. So we know he's lied under oath once. So here he is, and he's asked by Chuck Todd if Obama spied on Donald Trump's campaign, or if he spied on Trump Tower. Now listen to this. Not only does he say, no, it wasn't done, but he even digs deeper and he says, if it was done, I would have known about it. In other words, there's no way anybody could have done it without him knowing about it. So now that we know that it happens...
He knew about it. It had his blessing.
Yes, and somebody needs to be held accountable. And yes, his head is shiny.
Start with the president's tweets yesterday. This idea that maybe President Obama ordered an illegal wiretap of his offices. If something like that happened, would this be something you would be aware of?
I would certainly hope so. I can't say, obviously I can't speak officially anymore.
Okay, now listen, he goes, I would certainly hope so, but listen how he changes his tune later. He goes from, I would certainly hope I would be aware, to in just a minute here, he's going to say, not even a minute, just a few seconds, he's going to change it.
More, but I will say that for the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign. I can't speak for other Title III authorized entities in the government, or a state or local entity.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the FBI, for instance,
here we go,
had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order on something like this.
So, did they not get a FISA court order though? Then did they do it?
This
rogue
is huge.
Huge.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists.
I can deny it.
Do you hear that?
There is no FISA court order.
Not to my knowledge.
Well, you think Chuck Fraud will have him back on this Sunday and ask him, given the new evidence?
I doubt. Let's just hear that part again. It's so beautiful.
At this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists.
I can deny it.
So he denied that there was a FISA warrant. So, but yet today we know, according to CNN, that it actually did happen. So either CNN
I think
is
somebody
doing
didn't get the message that they weren't supposed to continue digging so people could just believe Clapper.
Right.
The clap.
Yeah. The clapper. Who probably has the clap. Okay. A lot of you probably don't even know what that is. As Mark Levin would say, Google it!
Bing it!
Bing it, yeah. Okay. So Tucker Carlson, who tends to be very libertarian on these issues. Do I have that queued up? I thought I had that queued up.
I thought you had that queued up.
I did have that queued up, but where did it go? I'll find it. Talk about something else, would you?
Oh.
Or talk about this, or talk about the weather, or...
Oh, you know what? I'll talk about the Constitution Day.
Oh, yeah.
Fair that we went to. That was amazing. Amazing. Largest Constitution Day fair in the country.
In Gilbert, Arizona, which is a great town.
Right. And it warmed our heart. You know, the leftist media has worked so hard to divide the country. They've worked to make people believe that all black people believe the same thing. They make people believe that all black people hate cops, that all black people think that cops are using black people as target practice. They make people believe that, try to make people believe that all black people hate America, that all black people like Colin Kaepernick and, you know, want to protest against our flag and everything, against our national anthem. I can tell you, there was great diversity at the Constitution Fair.
Yes,
there was
people
black
of all
people,
ethnicities,
white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, old people, young people, and there was entire black families we saw.
Oh yeah, standing up, cheering.
Yeah, standing during the concert part with the patriotic songs. Young black teenage girls standing up, clapping. Yeah, that's America, CNN, not what you're trying to make us out to be.
And again, I say this probably every other episode, and I'll continue to do it. That is what this country was founded on, unity. Unity around a fixed, not fluctuating, not living and breathing, a fixed set of principles that we can all agree on, regardless of skin color.
Yep.
That all men are created equal, that we all have freedom of speech and freedom of religion and, the right to protect ourselves and all of our other great freedoms, et cetera, et cetera. So it was so moving, so touching, and they had a memorial set up of all the brave soldiers in this area, around Gilbert, Lisa, Chandler, who had died
in combat.
Yeah, and their stories, about
42-year-olds, 20-year-olds,
had a newborn baby, and,
baby that they never met, baby that they met right before they left and didn't come back. It was just very, very,
and
very
died
moving.
for the right of these leftist lunatics to spew their hate. Just unreal. Okay, so here's Tucker Carlson, who was on fire tonight over that report that the Obama regime spied on the Trump campaign manager in Trump Tower exactly as Donald Trump said he did. Please don't. Oh my God. It's a
yeah, so oh my gosh, the fireworks show was absolutely incredible.
You were right up on it. I tell you what, if you ever get the opportunity to come to good old Gilbert, Arizona on September 17th next year, you should do it. Okay, here we go. Come on.
That stuff, it's nuts. Now, so suspicions confirmed, the media laughed derisively. Wiretapping? Come on. That's tinfoil hat stuff. It's nuts. Now, in another time, with more trustworthy institutions, that would have been the end of the story. But we live in a country with deeply corrupt institutions, and so it turns out all those patronizing assurances that nobody's spying on political campaigns were false, and probably intentionally so. According to a new report from CNN, Paul Manafort, who for a time last year was Trump's campaign chairman, was wiretapped by the federal government both before and after the election. Now, Manafort, it ought to be noted, had an apartment inside Trump Tower during that time. So it's virtually certain that surveillance of him would have included other members of the Trump campaign staff, maybe even Trump himself. In other words, it looks like Trump's tweet may have been right. So why did 3 top members of Congress from both parties and the country's top law enforcement officer all assure us the surveillance didn't happen, that there wasn't a shred of evidence to suggest it had happened? Were they lying, or did they simply not know? Neither answer is comforting. Either the intelligence agency has gone rogue, pursuing its own goals without meaningful oversight from elected officials, or our officials are colluding with one another to lie to the public, apparently for political reasons.
So there you go. That is what has become known to be called as the deep state, right?
Yes.
Hashtag drain the swamp. If you don't think there's a swamp, then just let this sink in, what he was saying. That both parties have aligned behind this false narrative that the Obama regime, who was in charge of the FBI, the NSA, all the various intelligence agencies that do or can do this type of thing, spied on the Trump campaign. They were all behind the lie that they didn't.
Right.
And they did.
They did.
This needs to be investigated, and there needs to be some prosecutions, because these are people's rights being violated. These are people speaking of the Constitution, their First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, rights to unreasonable searches and seizures. And how did they, the FBI, and again, I want to make it clear again, no fan of, Paul Manafort, but, he may be as crooked as a dog's hind leg. He very well could be. But the fact of the matter is, he has not been charged with a crime at this point. And the tactics that they used on him when the FBI, in the dark of the night, busted in his house while he was still in bed, even though his attorney, I think, is a former government official who was cooperating with the FBI. They, I believe, it looks like anyway, are using hardball tactics to try to silence him. So tonight, Manafort said that he hopes that all of those tapes where they spied on him would be made public. All of his intercepted communications would be made public. From the Daily Caller, Manafort calls on the Department of Justice to release his intercepted communications with foreigners. And, a spokesman of him says because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And so go ahead and look at it. So will they do that? What do you think?
Will they do that? Well, it's Trump's Department of Justice now. One would hope. One would think.
I mean, why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they? I mean, if they don't, then it shows, despite Jeff Sessions, who I'm pretty dang sure wouldn't have a problem with it, there are powers at B, deep in this government that really run things. These faceless bureaucrats and, behind-the-scenes puppet masters who we don't even know exist. I hate to go all conspiratorial. But you have a story about how, let's just segue to this, go culture here, how cop-hating, communist, Castro-loving Colin Kaepernick is poisoning the nation's youth.
Right, and shame on this football coach. So, Colin Kaepernick ruined viewership for the NFL last season with his protest against America, the American flag, and our national anthem, refusing to stand up for it. This from a privileged biracial man who was raised by a wealthy white family, attended probably an elite high school, got a scholarship for football at UNLV thanks to his white football coach. Now all of a sudden saying that whitey in America is bad,
keeping him down,
keeping him down, oppressing black people, murdering black people, whatever. And he led this protest against America and the flag. It killed the NFL's ratings. The league denied it for a long time, and then they finally admitted it before this season started.
When polls came out that showed it was the number one reason people tuned out.
Right.
I mean, number two was people, were paying attention to the campaign, which was crazy. I get that. But the number one reason was people do not want to see the American flag and everything it stands for and all the people that died for it and our freedoms disrespected in such a way.
By a bunch of whiny-ass millionaires.
Overpaid
ball catchers who want to act like, some of them, like they're slaves.
Yeah.
Slaves being paid $1 million to $22 million a year, but I digress. Anyway, so on Sunday, you still have some people, I think we talked about this yesterday, Michael Bennett from the Seahawks, and we're big Seahawk fans. We're trying to focus on other players in the Seahawks rather than his Black Panther-loving ASS doing the Black Panther salute after making a play on the field.
But that's not racist.
Yeah, that's not racist. But on Sunday, this protest against America was taken to a whole new level when a St. Louis football team of 25 players, all younger than 8 years old, took a knee during the national anthem. The coach is a former Missouri player, Orlando Gooden, and he told Fox 2, now St. Louis, that he's proud of what his players did. One of his kids asked him if he saw people protesting and rioting in St. Louis. I said yes. You know why they're doing it. His player said because black people are getting killed and nobody's going to jail. Now, this is a 8, 7, 6-year-old kid. Who knows how old? But a lot of these cases where they're saying, oh, this black person was killed and the person was acquitted. There was no evidence. You know, you forget there's such a thing as evidence to prosecute the person, or there was clear evidence that the black person who lost his life because of their actions were in the wrong. And so Gooden, said that he felt good, that it was a good teaching moment for him to circle the team and have a meeting. And he explained to the players why Kaepernick knelt during the national anthem.
And those kids, 6, 7, 8 years old, don't know what the hell is going on.
No,
and somebody poisoned them.
Yep. Well, the kid said,
some adult got a hold of them and brainwashed them.
And the coach said, as long as we know why we're doing it, I don't have a problem with it. And he supposedly has the support. He supposedly has the support of parents. So, it's okay to use little children to push leftist indoctrination propaganda.
Politics. Hey,
it's okay,
people,
very
if
obviously.
you don't like the country, get the hell out.
Joe, what was his name?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Joe in Washington.
Joe
Kennedy, yeah. He lost his job because he knelt. But
to pray after the game.
To honor God and pray after the game. And voluntarily had players from his team and other teams that joined him in prayer. And he was told he couldn't do that. But this guy can lead a bunch of 8-year-olds and youngers
that hate the country
in kneeling down against America.
Yeah.
Shameful.
Absolutely shameful. Shame on you. Shame on you, buddy. Okay, speaking of, I guess, racial relations or race baiting or guilty white race hustlers, we have a story here. We've talked about her a couple of times. I've never seen her. But
I never heard of her until this election year.
Right. Chelsea Handler, I think she's got a show on Netflix. I'm not even sure who the hell she is, except I think she's trying to be the next Kathy Griffin or something. Next, she'll be beheading the President of the United States, in gory detail with blood and the whole works. But go ahead.
Yeah, just like an arrogant white wealthy liberal, I've said this many times. White liberals like to portray themselves as the lovers of black. Oh, we love black people.
Is it wrong to say that they're the original slave owners?
They are the original slave owners.
Is it wrong to say that they were against the civil rights movement?
That they were the ones that instituted Jim Crow. They were the ones that turned the hoses on black people. But, they're now the protectors. They're the self-proclaimed protectors of black people.
They found a new way to do slavery.
Right. Control
they act thought. Right. They make these people victims. Mm-hmm. They pretend that people are out to get them. They make them victims, and then they give them a little bit of handout, just like they did in slavery. He will give you free room and board, just like in slavery.
Yep.
No difference there. As long as you vote for us, we're good. We're good.
Right. But so white wealthy liberals, any white liberal actually, loves black people and are their self-avowed protectors, unless that black person happens to
believe in the Constitution. Then they hate their freaking guts.
And say anything related to our freedoms, our rights as Americans.
Love of country,
whatever. So Chelsea Handler, we talked about this the other day, called Ben Carson, Sheriff David Clark, and Stacey Dash, black white supremacists, whatever the hell that means. Black white supremacists.
This is another way of her saying Uncle Tom.
Right. And she said that they're basically a black white supremacist are black people who think white people are better than them. Because, if you don't believe in the commie agenda of the Democrat Party, that means you're self-loathing. I've been told that many times. So Stacey Dash hit back in full force and called her out. She said, myself, Ben Carson, Sheriff David Clark are white supremacists and black skin. Is that it? Because we disagree with liberal left agenda, a wealthy white liberal celebrity gets to slander a brilliant and famous neurosurgeon, a respected man of the law, and me? There's an opportunity to invoke white privilege here somewhere, I'm sure. Wait, I forgot. That's a title exclusive to conservatives only. So yes, Chelsea Handler probably grew up with a freaking silver spoon in her mouth.
More than likely.
White, wealthy liberal wants to call black people who decided to get off the plantation and not be controlled by the Democrat Party white black supremacists. And Stacey Dash continued and said, liberals love to embrace wealthy celebrities who in turn like to fashion downtrodden victims of their own fan base and remind them that they are under the heels of, wealthy white people.
Right.
And, just like with Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson, grew up in poverty, the child of a single mom. He was raised by a single mother. Went on to become one of the most famous neurosurgeons. Did the first conjoined twins surgery. Led that team. Just a story of truly the American dream. Versus Obama, who was raised by his America-hating mom in Indonesia, and then by his America-hating grandparents, who sought out a communist mentor for him in Hawaii, a very affluent Aryan family. People want to trot out this George Jefferson wannabe as the epitome of blackness in America.
Who never produced a damn thing in his life except 2,700 pages of Obamagate that destroyed the freaking country. But other than that, he's a swell guy.
So Stacey Dash ends with saying,
Yellow.
She said, check out maybe read my autobiography and about my childhood, being exposed to drugs, violence, and abuse while growing up in the Bronx. Does that make me black enough for you and anyone else who shares this judgmental and simplistic assessment of my beliefs?
But we know Obama's down for the struggle because he's only getting $400,000 a speech now in the last couple of weeks from, wait for it, Wall Street, who he demonized for 8 years.
Right, and going on vacations on private islands and with yachts and
down for the struggle
locations with his 1% friends, but, do as I say, not as I do.
Hashtag elitist hypocrite.
Good for you, Stacey Dash, for taking it to her.
Thank you for tuning in to the Burke Brigade. If you did, if you didn't, you're not hearing this. We really appreciate you tuning in. We love you guys, our 2 listeners. And if you like us, if you love us, even if you don't, share us anyway.
If you want some more of us,
if you like us, if you
like
love
us,
you love
us,
you want some more of us, then share us, please. Thank you for tuning into the Burke Brigade, brought to you by The Liberty Daily,
your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Tune into thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com, which is growing in leaps and bounds. You will not be sorry. God bless you.
And God bless America.
Freedom, baby, freedom.